Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I am your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Darren McDonald, the Chief Customer Officer of Petco. Petco is a $5 billion in revenue company as of 2021 with 27,000 employees and 1,500 locations. Darren went from serving as the Chief Digital and Innovation Officer to becoming Petco's first ever Chief Customer Officer. He manages so many aspects of the business, including marketing and customer service. Today, we're talking about how they went through a transformation and how they manage customer experience and include innovation and growth. I am a pet owner myself with 2 little dogs, so I have been through every pet shop and veterinary experience. So you get to hear and see my dog if you're watching this on YouTube, which I think is reason enough to tune in. But let's get to this fantastic conversation with Darren McDonald. Please enjoy. Darren, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Are you in San Diego today?
Beautiful, sunny San Diego. It's actually a little bit cold, but yes, I'm here. Nice
Yeah,
to
I'm
meet you.
about 2 hours north of you, and it was 35 this morning. It was freezing.
Ouch, ouch.
Yeah. So I want to introduce you to our listeners and viewers for those that aren't familiar with you. I mean, you have had a really unique career trajectory, having some great experiences that we're going to talk about today, working at Walmart, managing their multi-billion-dollar entertainment business. Now you're in the Chief Customer Officer role, so you're my prime target for this show. So I'm so glad you're here. And let's talk about the beginning and just how you started on this trajectory to where you are now as CCO of Petco.
Sure. Well, most recently at Petco, I joined to lead the digital efforts, which was an area of the business that candidly needed a little bit of help. And what we learned was that we had all these pillars of our business that had been stood up over time, but they weren't connected. So you take something like marketing, how are we talking to our customer, and how does that the words and the language that we use connect to what the digital experience looks like, and how is that separate and distinct from what we do inside of a store or a grooming salon? And then how does the post-purchase transaction moment happen? And what we realized is that we didn't have somebody overseeing all these elements to make sure that they were all brought together in a very seamless way. So really, and as you probably well know, I mean, this role isn't something that is really US centric. It actually appears much more in sort of European markets, but we felt like for us and our strategy, it made a lot of sense to put somebody into the job so that we could pull all of it together and build a cohesive strategy.
Are you Petco's first Chief Customer Officer?
I am, yeah.
Wow. Okay. That
Yeah.
is a tough job. Can you just talk about the experience that you had at jet.com and just taking that to Walmart and then what you learned there and just how that's relevant for you now? I hope this doesn't feel like a job interview, but we do have to hit these points before we get
Sure.
into it.
Well, I mean, Jet was an amazing experience. I mean, I can't say enough about it. That was just rocket ship moment. I mean, I spent 50% of my time interviewing folks to get them into the company because we were growing so fast. And really, kudos to Mark with a pretty bold strategy and the ability to raise a ton of capital, with a unique vision as well. And so, that was kind of like hold on to your seats because this thing is moving very, very quickly. And we were pretty good about ensuring that it was a good experience for customers as well. So if you think about what that product experience looked like, there was a lot of people really focused on, what does this shopping experience look like? Because you buy one product and it comes from one retailer, you buy another product and it comes from another retailer. And what Jet was trying to do is bring that together so that it all shipped in one box, which was
Mhm.
a different cart experience. And it was a little bit of a different way of shopping because we were communicating back to you how much value you were saving right then and there. And so it was a little bit different. And then the Walmart experience, look, I have nothing but fond things to say about that company and that experience. I mean, I had job opportunities to go do other things that candidly I would have gone and made more money and maybe even more senior roles. There is nothing like learning from the world's number one retailer. And I am eternally grateful for the leadership there and the access that I had to learn how to do retail at a very, very high level. And I feel very fortunate to have gone through that experience. So, um, you learn a lot of the fundamentals that drive what customers do at those two companies. Both of them are certainly very focused on things like price, and getting fundamentals of things like shipping speed. And I think those fundamentals have really kind of carried through to my time at Petco as well, to make sure that above all else, you get those core customer needs solved for. So really, really great experience for me at both those companies.
So you joined Petco at a time when so many customers prefer to buy things with their phone or their computer, and then through COVID, where no one was going to stores, but people were adopting pets. So it's really an interesting time. Are you seeing that trend continue to grow as stores just change their model, where customers just prefer to buy online and on their phone?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, we needed to build out a world-class experience no matter where a customer wanted to intersect with us. There's no doubt about that. I would say, there were a few insights that drove some of the work that we did through COVID and even today. For instance, we know that 80% of pet parents want to do what's best for their pet, but only 50% of them know how to do it. And then the other big learning and insight for us was only 50% of customers want to shop in a one-stop shop. So that actually, those consumer insights, I call them the juicy insights, are the things that drove a lot of what our strategy is. So if you think back to the COVID moment, we spent a lot of time trying to stand up these channels so that we could meet a customer whenever, wherever they wanted. And at the same time, providing a level of education to them so that they could figure out how could they manage the welfare of their pet. If you're like me, I mean, I've got three children. Still don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need help along the journey. And, I think pet parents are sort of the same way. You don't, if you've never done it before, you need help and you need assistance. And so what we try to do is be there for them and answer all the right questions. And, a key thing to our business that I think is somewhat unique is the fact that we operate as an ecosystem. Unlike a lot of other retail categories, you can't just purely buy something online. If you want to get your animal vaccinated, you have to go to a physical location.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get your dog groomed, you have to go to a physical location. There's so
Yeah.
many moments where you intersect with physical retail. So for us, it's really about how do you connect all these dots in a broader ecosystem and help somebody manage through that process. So those to me are like the things that have really driven what our strategy is.
Yeah, pets, I would say it's a very experiential category because half the time people walk into the store, they've just adopted a puppy or a kitty, and they're like, I don't even know what I need. I mean, that happened with us where we had one dog we rescued from a shelter, then somebody had another dog that nobody wanted, like this little 5 pound Snorky Schnauzer Yorkie. And the woman said to me, she came to my door, she said, you can take this dog or I'm taking it to the shelter. So you have to decide now. And in 2 minutes, I decided, okay, we're keeping her. But that
Oh,
meant, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. And we like kept her in a purse for a month, months, because she had worms or that thing that, dogs get if they don't have the vaccines. And you can't
yeah.
take the puppy out of the bag, or not the bag, but you can't put the dog on the ground for a long time when you adopt the dog. So there's so many things about adopting pets that new pet owners don't know. And you have to find out. So you're this source of education, not just a store, but really like, here's how you become a pet parent.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we sort of think of ourselves as the pet parent's partner, and we almost want to do it in a concierge-like manner. And there's analogies and proxies out in the market to suggest that this is a very effective way for helping somebody through something that they don't know or don't understand well, or just want to have their hand held. So, we've developed a lot of features that we put into our app that help you to do things like care reminders. So, a year later, do you still have dental chews? Have you gone in for your vaccinations? And if you're a busy professional, it's really nice to have a push message or an SMS or an email to say, hey, you're overdue for this thing, so go get
Mhm.
it. Or things like repeat delivery. So your food just shows up automatically every 6 weeks or for whatever the frequency is that you set. So There's a lot of tools that help people to take better care of their animal. And again, for us, the app is really kind of central to what that strategy is.
So I do want to talk about the e-commerce and shopping strategy, Darren, but I also really have to ask you about organizational structure because that's something that everyone in this category is always interested in. What does it look like? What is your scope? What does your team look like? How does it work? Do you own customer service? What kind of budget authority do you have? Who do you report to? So could you give us the little skeleton look of what that looks like, what your role looks like?
Sure. Yeah, I think probably for every chief customer officer, there's a slightly different mix. My responsibilities are all things digital, which would include the app. I'm also responsible for digital product, so all the experiences that you see online when you go through the app or through digital. All of the marketing responsibilities, loyalty and membership, which is a big thing for us.
Yeah.
A very big thing, which we can touch on later. I have enterprise analytics and data science, and then I have all of our call center as well. So if it's sort of non-IT, non-supply chain, and non-store, sort of falls underneath my remit.
Wait, so you own marketing?
That's right.
Oh my gosh, that's so much. How do you balance that, literally having so much that you own in the customer journey?
Well, I think a big thing of it is having strong leaders. We have very, very good leaders on our team. For me, even before you get into kind of organizational structure, it's the question of like, what is the strategy, right? Because form follows function. Like, what is it that you're trying to do? And for us, if we're trying to build a seamless customer experience end to end, everything from the way that we talk to you, the way that we interact with you when you're purchasing or in one of our grooming salons, to if you have an issue through our customer care, it would make sense to put all those pieces underneath a leader to help kind of simplify and streamline what that process looks like. So I think to me, it makes a ton of sense. And I also, I got to say, I partner really well with the team on the store side as well, because that is a bigger piece of our overall business. So it's important that when somebody actually walks into one of our 1,500 pet care centers, that they have a great experience there as well. So yeah, that's what the overall organizational structure looks like.
So there's a few questions, Darren, that I have to ask every guest because it's just such a hard thing for our listeners to solve. That is, metrics is a big one. How do you measure it? If it is net promoter score, how do we avoid gaming it? So let's just talk about measuring customer experience and what that looks like for Petco.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, what gets measured gets managed. You have to actually get the data to tell you whether you're being successful or not. I actually think maybe in a little bit more broad terms than just things like OSAT score or NPS. We use Medallia as one of our big vendors to kind of look at both external perceptions of us, but also internal, how are our partners perceiving the work that we're doing. My model, how I think about things, is very much input driven. Mark Laurie from Jet always used to say, and I love this, entrepreneurs think about the inputs, and if you take care of the inputs, the outputs will follow. For me, it's really a matter of like, what are the big drivers of your business? Don't look at revenue. Look at things like, do you have all the right assortment, right? Are you priced correctly? Are you delivering product quickly? Are people who are inside of your store, are they having a great experience because you have the right labor model? Are your in-stocks correct? Those are the things that actually really matter and drive what a customer experience looks like. So if you focus on driving all of those inputs, I think all the outputs that are the metrics that Wall Street wants to know about and that we care the most about sort of follow from the work that we do around driving those inputs. So that's how I think about the business.
Let's talk about the pharma part of the business that you're growing. Could you just talk about the strategy and how you're rolling that out?
Yeah, so the pharma piece of our business it's super exciting for us. What's unique about Petco, as I mentioned earlier, is that we have all these physical locations, and in a number of our locations, over 200 of our locations, we have veterinary clinics. So people are bringing in their animal for either a vaccination or if there's an issue of some sort, and oftentimes when required, we write a prescription. And then we have these things called Vetco care clinics that are actually mobile clinics that go from each of our pet care centers, and they set up a time and they do things like vaccinations, and they will also write prescriptions. So in a way, we have this captured audience of people who are already interacting with Petco. And it's a large number of customers that are interacting with Petco. And then what we do is if a prescription is written, by the time they get out to their car, they have an email that's been sent to them, automatically redirecting them with the prescription in hand to our online pharmacy. Why that is unique and important is because when somebody typically goes to a veterinarian, they take a prescription, they have to go to a retailer. That retailer and that pharmacy has to go back to the veterinarian to make
Yeah.
sure that that prescription was adjudicated. Well, it's
Yes.
all happening within our ecosystem.
And
And
it's very
so
disorganized, by the way. I'm dealing with this right now, and it's so frustrating.
it's super frustrating, and it's like the Stone Age, to be honest. I mean,
Yes.
and I'm not kidding when I say they're faxing, these orders for prescriptions to make sure that they're actually valid. So to be able to do this again within one singular entity, all in one location, is actually a really, really meaningful thing.
Yeah, I would say the veterinary industry is very ripe for digital transformation. And one of my favorite examples is the clipboard, just paper and information being stored on paper. What advice do you have for other businesses that are in industries like pet care where there is really a need for digital transformation and innovation? Where do you even start to build the business case for it when it's very expensive?
Well, I mean, it's a broad question. I guess I would say, the if you're going to build a business focusing on the customer, notable to this podcast, I think is probably the place to start. If you really understand what the needs of a customer are, you can build scale. The opposite side of things, and I think one of the pitfalls that oftentimes companies focus too much on is, they think through the lens of the business as opposed to the lens of what the customer needs are.
Hmm.
Start there and you understand that deeply, intimately, and you can come up with those juicy insights that drive how you're going to meet those needs. I think you start to think about, like, what is the strategy that I want to accomplish? And, from there, as I said, kind of building out the organizational plan and all the metrics in place. All businesses, Walmart included, almost $500 billion company is still faced with questions of capital allocation. And to me, that's very much a prioritization exercise to go after the things that impact the business in the most meaningful way, which oftentimes means that you're impacting the customer in the most meaningful way. So there's no sort of easy answer for that, but I do think that having ruthless prioritization is incredibly important, so that you're not doing everything. You're focusing on the things that matter most and do them really well first.
Darren, one of the things our audience really struggles with is driving accountability at the leadership level. So
Mhm.
you clearly have a customer-centric culture. I'm assuming the CEO every day is talking about the customer in some respect because you have yourself so much authority and so much scope as a CCO. You're literally above the CMO, which is so rare. You don't probably even have a CMO, or maybe,
We do. We do have a
oh,
CMO.
but they report to you?
That's right.
Oh, wow. So to me, that's very unique. What advice do you have for our listeners and viewers that are trying to drive accountability at the leadership level, but the leaders aren't necessarily incentivized to focus on these things?
Well, look, having executive buy-in, I think, is like part and parcel for having a successful customer strategy. I mean, if I wasn't tightly aligned with Ron, my boss, the CEO, about focusing on the needs of a customer, I think we would have problems, to be perfectly blunt and perfectly honest. There's a famous quote by Sam Walton that says, essentially, the customer is the only one that matters.
Mm,
And if you don't serve the needs of that customer, they can fire you at any time.
right.
That's a very real thing, right? And so aligning with the management team that we're going to focus on delivering on customer needs and all the metrics that we talked about, I think is central. And then, the process then begins to sort of drive into different areas. So if you think about something like loyalty, um, how are you going to drive retention to your business? We have a team that is focused deliberately on that and a strategy around that. And that strategy we call Vital Care, which is really the industry's first membership program. But that keeps people in our ecosystem. And there is a leader that is responsible for developing the benefits that come alongside that, the economics, the P&L associated with it, and getting more and more members into that program. So, and you could say the same thing about frequency of purchase or order economics or, all the drivers of things like lifetime value. some of these are shared goals, and other ones are, there's one throat to choke. And I think,
That
to
is
some degree,
that is so funny. What is that analogy? One throat to choke?
well,
What does
yeah,
that mean?
it means that there's singular accountability.
Oh, okay.
Oftentimes there is, if you lead by committee and you have people who are, everybody is sort of responsible, that means that nobody is responsible.
Yes. Yes.
You
It's
know,
like how if
it,
somebody's at a pool party, like no one's watching the kids and the kid falls in the pool. It's like, well, I thought you were watching them.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. When there's an emergency, you're supposed to look one person in the eye and tell them to call the police. Don't yell to everybody to call police because nobody will do it, right?
Yeah.
It's, you need to assign people responsibility for
Yes.
things. Anyway, maybe it's not the best figure of speech, but it gets the
No,
point
I like
across.
it. It makes everybody listening go, oh, they're going to perk up when they hear that. But that, I mean, that's a really big problem for everybody listening. Just driving accountability. It's like, who's going to own this? How do we do it? How do we look at customer service as a not as a cost center? That's the next question I actually had for you. Is you own the contact center? You clearly are customer focused. So what does that contact center management look like if it's not completely just a cost center?
I would say traditionally we've thought about it as more of a defensive play. It's break fix. Something's wrong with an order. I'm having trouble loading some sort of reward or whatever the problem may be, and we sort of respond to that need on an ad hoc basis. We have recently begun to pivot that where we're playing offense now, and we think about that as not just a cost center. Um, we are also thinking about it as a revenue driver. It is that you can call it hoteling or what have you, but this notion that we have an opportunity to introduce people to parts of our business that can actually drive meaningful revenue or drive loyalty. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we have either inbound or even sometimes just doing pure outbound, but when you have inbound calls and somebody says, I I had this issue when I buy dog food. You look up the fact that this customer has purchased dog food every month for the last 6 months, and you can offer them something like Vital Care, where, for your animal, you pay $20 a month, you get $15 back right away, and you get 20% or sorry 10% off your nutrition. That's a pretty powerful thing. So you can turn what an issue was into an opportunity. And so,
Mm-hmm.
for us, it's actually been a big pivot, and we're on a journey there. We think it's a big underutilized piece of our business that is going to be a bigger piece of kind of revenue generation for us going forward.
It seems like it's called earn the right to sell in the contact center, but I would imagine that requires a different thought on hiring. Like, how do you hire somebody that can tease that out? Like, well, what's your life like? What do you need? Okay, well, here's this product that's relevant. Unless you're just going to use AI and it's just a straight AI
Yeah, well,
play.
it can be AI or some version of that. I guess I would sort of describe it as if you have an analytical model that allows you to come up with personalized recommendations for a customer, then you can publish that recommendation out to somebody who's on the front line, which may be on the website, it may be at our POS system, or it may be in our contact center. Then you can provide very simple next best actions and next best steps. So, you might pay a lot to have somebody who is a very well trained person, but I think if you can complement that with data that is provided to that agent so that they can make really intelligent decisions based on all that shopper's behavior, I think that's a really powerful thing. And again, one of the things that excites me about the Petco business is we have insight and data almost unique to the industry because we own our vets and we have a service business on top of all of our retailing. So I would say, honestly, in the pet category, we're probably pretty unique in terms of the insight that we can get about a customer. So, turning those insights into action inside of a customer care center is actually a very feasible and highly personalized activity for us.
What do you think we're going to see as we look toward the future as customer experience as a category grows? Do you have any predictions or interest in specific areas of customer experience that you predict will grow?
I mean, you have lots of people are prognosticating about a lot of different things. A lot of them will probably speak to the word personalization. And for me, I also think that that's just a very, very big opportunity if I can know you intimately and I can craft the experience around it for you, I think that's a very, very powerful thing. And you can imagine we've got 25 million customers. Well, if you look at which of those are new pet parents that are located in the state of Nebraska who are between certain ages, um, you can come up with like an increasingly more personalized experience for that customer. And as they start to give you feedback, you write that thing to, a customer data profile that is real time, and then you can craft experiences in that very same moment that allow you to get closer to what that customer is looking for.
They need
And as
dog boots and a dog jacket. Nebraska gets cold.
exactly. And if it's cold, right? And you're coming into a seasonal moment, we can be very thoughtful about what we're offering to you and when. If there's a heat wave, for instance, that goes through Nebraska in the spring, and we know that flea and tick is going to become a bigger issue regionally based and based on the animal that you have, we can provide flea and tick recommendations to you in a way that helps you become a better pet parent. So I just think the wave towards personalization and doing it in a real-time manner is not something that is going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, somebody like you, I would imagine if you're working at a company that sells things to pets and pet owners and animals, then you already are an empathetic person. So actually, it makes perfect sense to me that Petco is very customer focused because customer also requires that culture baked in empathy. And so, yes, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, all the things that you're saying and that you guys are doing. And that's why you've probably had such a great run of it the last few years with such growth. I guess that's pretty exciting for you to see.
It's been amazing. I mean, I showed up just a little bit before the beginning of the pandemic, and to see, the pet adoption and growth in pet, in homes. We call it the furry annuity because there was just such a wave of pulling animals out of shelters and adoptions. That was really a secular trend in our category that is unlike any other. And to your point, when you do that in a highly emotive category that is filled with love, and we get to be the people who are on the other side of that, helping you to be better at what you do, it's a pretty fulfilling role. And it's a mission-based organization that is doing our very best to help people be the best pet parents they can be. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I think animals really make humans better humans, and they're just so good for people. They change the molecules in the room and make everybody very relaxed. And next, we're going to go to our fun rapid fire where we get to know you a little bit better. And I'm going to put, let's see, I think I have only one of my dogs in here. I have two dogs. One like purrs slash growls when she's happy, so she might scare our viewers. But my other dog is a complete teddy bear, so I'm going to put her on camera in a second. Her name's Athena, and she's 11.
Uh,
So let's start with the rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, and I'm going to get Athena while we start. First
Okay.
question though, what does your morning routine look like?
Hmm. Well, it depends on the day, but generally speaking, I get my brain started by looking at email. Oh my gosh, there she is. Looks so cute. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Hi, Thea. Um, I think exercise is a critical part of my day, even if it's a walk. I'm not necessarily going for wind sprints and lifting heavy weights, but this morning I woke up and I hit the treadmill for a few miles and multitasked and emailed at the same time. I think you get back the investment you make in a little bit of exercise through productivity throughout the day. So that's super important to me. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I walk directly from my bed to the coffee machine, though. Um,
Same.
yeah, yeah. And then I've got 3 kids, so obviously throwing them around and having some laughs with them is important to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next question. Do you have a unique leadership hack that helped get you to where you are today?
Um, I think understanding your body and understanding your mind, I think is very important. I don't know if it's unique to me, but there are difficult, complex, layered, multifaceted problems that are probably for me best solved at 9 or 10 a.m. versus 5 p.m. So I do try to organize my queue in terms of the things that are the higher order thinking that attempt to kind of tackle early in the morning versus later in the afternoon. But again, and I can't say I'm always great about this. I'm not a robot, but getting exercise definitely helps my ability to sort of work through my day quickly and efficiently.
Well, that's a great segue to my next question. What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
Um, Definitely hanging out with my family, throwing my kids around, doing some sort of outdoor activity with them. I love being outdoors, going for hikes, playing in the street with them. To me, that's a totally different use of my brain. I became a pilot 3 years ago. I come from a family of aviation, so I do spend a decent amount of time going flying, and it's just a very different experience than the business world. The cards are all faced up versus half of them face down, and it's a different way of stretching your brain that I find relaxing as well.
What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
Mm. Well, I don't know that I have a leadership book that I love. I do love reading business books. I kind of find the entertaining ones more interesting. Barbarians at the Gate or Disney Wars or something like that. I think those are very fascinating reads. I would say I'm definitely a student of human beings and the things that make them tick. Effective leaders, like what are their principles, what guides them, trying to really pick them apart in terms of the way that they articulate themselves and how they act and react. So I think I pay very close attention to other people who are successful.
What's a mental strategy for managing hard days?
I mean, I would go back if I've got a long day and I have to be in front of a lot of people. I mean, I need to go for a run in the morning and just get my body moving. And again, that gives me the endurance to help get me through the day. Also, I'm pretty careful about the things that I eat nowadays. I think that actually matters a lot in terms of your overall performance and mental acuity.
If you could have lunch with anybody dead or alive, who would it be?
Hmm. Um, it would probably be a politician. I think they are really good at commanding a room and connecting with people. So I don't know, maybe both of the Obamas, maybe Kennedy or Reagan or Clinton, somebody like that, somebody who's very, very good in a room. I think a group amongst them would be pretty fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and lastly, Darren, if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Uh, Time is not elastic. You have a limited time to play with your family, to raise your kids. You have a limited time to make enough money for retirement. You get one crack at it, and so for me, time is limited, and act accordingly.
That's great. Well, Darren, this has been really, really fun, and I hope that we'll run into each other again at some chief customer officer event or something. You have to come back on the show to tell us how it's going next year.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah, I
Okay.
appreciate the time, Blake, and I hope we get that opportunity.
All right, Darren. Everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Go to Petco, adopt an animal, go do it all. They're going to help you get that animal what it needs. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.